Check, 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 check. It sounds like it. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2 3. There we go. There we go. There's a switch on it.
Hello? Yeah, there we go.
Check, check, check. All right. Can you check both of the mics?
Yes. Okay. Hello. How is that? Do we like that? Are they the same? Cool. Yes, good. Sweet. Hello. Yeah. Are we streaming? No. Oh, okay. So welcome to episode 3 of The Writer's Room, where me and Michael attempt to write a movie in a month. This is the third session of 4, so we're kind of approaching the home stretch on this, sort of. And we're probably going to take a minute to take stock of what we have and decide what comes next. So we hope you enjoy, and we'll see. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say. Well, okay. Last time, off camera, I think, after we'd ended, I remembered that I tried to write a dystopia as a teenager. Because... Okay. So, because we have decided that we're writing a food dystopia, right? And I was like, I have always been obsessed with dystopias. That was like my favorite like young adult novel genre, you know? And loved The Hunger Games, obviously. Loved like... That's sad. I mean, they're terrible, but the movies are pretty fun, actually. Your mom likes them? That's awesome. No, it's a brilliant story. It's about the rich exploiting the poor, fundamentally. But it's like one of those weird contrived, like, it's battle royale, basically. Only, actually. And, yes, also excellent. But it's like they choose, you know, there's like 12 new states, or like 13 new states. Right. Yeah, in the future. Wait, can I help you do this? Okay. I am doing the intro. And yeah, so basically there's like 2 kids that get chosen from each part of this new America country they all have to fight, and like, I don't know what you win. You win like fame and fortune and your family not dying, I guess. No, literally, yeah, it's battle royale. And there's like a whole romance, obviously. That's like, yeah, love triangle situation. Which is always, I'm realizing, an interesting trope I think that emerged with Twilight, and then maybe it's older too. Actually, no, it's older because it's Wuthering Heights is the light versus dark love triangle, which is are you team Edward or Jacob? It's the same phenomenon, which is also Peeta or Gale. Yes, I think. No, it's 2 men and 1 woman. Heathcliff and what's his face, the guy who like she marries. Yeah. So, a tale as old as time. I don't know when I'm on camera. Now I am. Anyway, so there's like one of those too. But I was really into imagining the future as a teenager, and I think because I like sort of didn't have a sense of my immediate future, I was like, what is going to be way out there? And so I wrote the first like 2 chapters or something of this dystopia, which was actually a food dystopia, because I feel like most dystopias are food dystopias anyway, because it's always about hunger. It's always about like sort of scrabbling, striving, or being purposefully deprived by your authoritarian government is usually what it is. And I don't know what's good with the second camera. Okay. Anyway, so my concept of this dystopia is it took place in D.C., and D.C. was like a walled city. It was kind of like I don't know if I decided what the rest of the U.S. was doing, but I was interested in D.C. as the former center of American power, and what would happen if things went downhill, basically. I did. Because the other one wasn't fitting in the thing, capture card. Okay. Well, and the concept it was also me trying, this is so mortifying to talk about, but it was me trying to be really woke, basically, in 9th grade, and I was like, this is an interracial romance, actually, and the whole point of this story is that the main character, this black girl, like, has to save the city somehow, and there was a whole thing with like hijab too, that they made all the women wear headscarves, and there was this whole thing where she like dyed her hair bright red or something, or bright orange, and then like that was like the signal for something to happen in this, like she was like the signal of a rally or something. It was that she would take off her scarf, and then like everybody would see that this like bright orange hair or something. I don't remember what the point of it was, but and I obviously wanted to work in all of this like botanical reference stuff. So there was like, her name was Aster, which was something about like the star and the North Star and like following the Underground Railroad. It was like bad. It was pretty weird, and I want to find it and read it one day. But where is it? In my like first laptop, probably, which my parents still have. It's probably somewhere in there. And so yeah, she had to like find her grandma, who was maybe some kind of like original freedom fighter resistance lady who like gone missing. I don't really remember how this was gonna play out. But yeah, she was gonna like leave the city, and the whole thing of it was that there was like rings around the city where there was like a 20-foot, 30-foot wall or something. And then there was like different agricultural zones so that the city was self-sufficient, if we're talking about food dystopia. And I think there was like a whole division about like what kind of work you did, that there was like the industrial people and the agricultural people, and they hated each other. And they all had to live in the same place because like they couldn't leave the city for some reason. Like it was, but I think it was supposedly, my whole concept was that it was propaganda, that like the land had been restoring itself outside the city, and it was not actually destroyed anymore. Like sure, maybe there was like a nuclear disaster or something, but in the way that you see like, oh, Chernobyl rebuilds itself, whatever, like the deer come back, like in that way, there was this sort of like new people had been venturing out and escaping and like sort of restarting their lives in harmony with the land or something, but they were always told, the citizens of the city were always told, like, you can't do that, you will die. These people die. So I think that the girl was like gonna leave the city and like go on this journey and realize that, and like find other communities of people in the great outdoors. But yeah, I don't think I even ever took notes on it. Like, I don't think that I mapped out. No, I wrote like the first 2 chapters, yeah, but I don't know if I ever actually outlined the whole thing. Like, I think that my strategy was to start writing and then just see what happened, see what I wanted it to do, or I like had all this whole machinations in my head that I was too afraid to like put down. But yeah, I'm thinking about that now again. And I'm trying to remember the name of the love interest, the like other protagonist, but I don't remember what I named him. But I remember this whole scene where I got really obsessed with how you can make seltzer by hand, supposedly, because if you just like pass water back and forth, you can, over a fire, there's something that like happens with you can put the CO2 in the water that way. I don't really know.
Huh.
And I
really?
had a scene where they do that, yeah.
Cool.
I don't know if that really works, though.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Nice.
But.
Well, yeah,
that's
cool.
Starting there, but maybe you could pull from that.
Why not?
Sometimes.
Why not?
Well, I like the concept of the
Do we
ultimate.
have Sharpies?
Oh yeah, they're over there.
Okay.
I like the concept of the ultimate lie of like the world is wasted, don't go into it, but that's like actually not how nature functions, you know. And it's about like the nature urban dichotomy being false.
Yeah. That there's there's like no-go zones,
Right.
supposedly, but
Right.
they're actually go-able.
Right.
Yeah, and that could be okay. So let's I think we can chart things out, like a map. Start mapping things, Oh, thank you. Yeah, do you want to hang the old ones? What the fuck why is this so bunched up? I don't like that. Sorry, I just want to make this paper a little more taut. Okay. So are we going to just keep building on what we had last time? Let's just keep, we have to. We can't subtract anything at this point. We got to build. We do have a lot, so let's try to figure out what we have. So what, I'm just going to keep calling it Salt Life, because I think that's funny. That's the development title. So if we talk about, I'll map out the geography of the place real quick. This is like, I don't know. I was going to try to draw the Great Lakes by hand, so. We have Lake World, which is kind of the last bastion of like semi-stable society. Then we have Coast World, which is like fully adapted to the conditions of the New World. And this is a water apocalypse. So this is like a drought world. There's no water anymore. Or there's very little water. It's hard to get. Not a lot of people have it. Except in the Great Lakes, which I think other than Lake Baikonur in Russia or somewhere there. It's like the deepest lake in the world, which has like a massive amount of the fresh water in the world. But other than that, I think the Great Lakes are like the biggest kind of freshwater deposits, So obviously in a kind of climate apocalypse, water apocalypse, that's going to be super important, having lots and lots of fresh water at your disposal. So that's why in this world that we've been talking about, the Great Lakes are kind of like the last bastion of like, somewhat stable society that still operates along the lines of the world as we know it now, right? And then we have the Coast World, which we were imagining the inspiration, the geographic inspiration for this is Assateague Island, which I'll just put a little, I probably won't spell it right either. Assateague, that might be right. It's an island, it's kind of easy to imagine as a kind of like new world because it is undeveloped and untouched largely.
It's a national park, right?
Yeah, it's a national or a state park. It might be a Maryland state park, but it's pretty undeveloped. It's got a pretty, strange, weird, almost alien ecosystem compared to like the rest of the East Coast, where
sort of
which
salt
by and large
flat marsh.
Exactly.
Although to me, I felt very at home in that because a lot of New Jersey looks like that. Me too, it's fine.
South Jersey, it's very salt marsh, the Pine Barrens, stuff like that,
Yeah, where the soil is sand.
Sandy soil and really kind of like wiry, spindly little shrubs growing out of the ground. So
Dunes.
we've got Lake World, Coast World, and then this is like, let's just say this is like the nether zone.
So in between?
Nether zone is the area in between, And so the kind of what's happened before the movie starts, as we've been figuring it out, is that there's been a caravan. A caravan has been traveling from the lake world to the coast world, right? And so in the lake world, again, we have we were talking about also conceiving this world as ways in which kind of like our old habits and our old tastes and desires are, still kept somewhat alive in the lake world, where there's enough stability and enough resources for there to be things like taste and choice and preference. And then in the coast world, it's like a hard scrabble existence. It is totally hand to mouth. You're just working nonstop, just for like the bare, like to just like eke out kind of the barest form of survival.
But
so you have two different kind of societies that are now post-apocalyptic societies that have kind of risen in the ashes of our current society, and now they're kind of
Yes.
meeting each other.
But I feel like one of the most beautiful parts of the movie is going to be how the coast world people like find a beautiful existence, and like how their new way of life is actually very like full,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
not actually as scary and desperate as the like people think it is. And that's
Yeah.
sort of the whole realization, is that like they think that each other are really depraved in very different ways, but they are actually like, it's just these new, like, I think that's an interesting, we could make that decision. Are we making a moral judgment about either of these places as the filmmakers?
Yeah.
Like, do we have an opinion about it? Because it sounds like the Lake World, we don't really like the Lake World people. They sound kind of awful because they sound like the worst parts of us, is what we're saying.
Well, it's. I think it's like. So I think one of the central aspects of kind of any dystopia is the idea of imagining, like, if everything were to collapse, how would you rebuild?
Yeah.
And like, would you rebuild? I mean, again, that's, obviously that would be like a utopia if you're talking about like the ideal form that a society could take. But how would you kind of rebuild society with, like, if you had the chance to kind of like start things anew, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, I think as we've talked about it, the kind of people who still have enough resources to kind of maintain a 20th, 21st century kind of consumer lifestyle. I mean, not really, still kind of almost at like pre-industrial levels, but like a level of comfort that allows them to have, tastes, period, and choices, period. I think that's like a big distinction that we should highlight. It's
like a capitalist society fundamentally, in that they have the illusion of choice.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean, you have choices in terms of just like there's more than, like, I think that we're talking about food specifically, right? And like that's where a lot of the choice comes down, is that like in the coast world, there's very little variety when it comes to food, because it's just what's around, and in a very like highly salinated area like that, there's not a lot that you can really eat. So they've kind of come to depend on a very, very kind of like simple diet, very unvaried. It's maybe not super like nutritious either. So there's all these kind of like now like generational health effects that have taken hold, constant dehydration, or bloat from the salt too is the other one.
Yeah.
I was talking about that J.G. Ballard novella where the people live on the coast and they're all bloated because all they eat is like fish and seaweed.
Right.
So
but I think that's also what's exciting about it to me too, is that it's like, okay, when you remove that factor, you have what does the world look like after our capitalism, which is very fun and kind of impossible to imagine. Or are they trying to, I like to think of them as some kind of dinky little utopia that's like maybe actually populated by hippies who are like, let's have communal alternate, and maybe that's like one of the things that's like the less realistic aspects of the movie, is that like the salt life people are kind of like actually like hippie salt life people, where it just so happens that they're like, let's have a commune.
Interesting.
In how we
I
set
was
this
imagining
up.
it as kind of just like a life of like endless toil and suffering.
Well, I feel like it would be. I think those are not mutually exclusive at all.
Okay.
No. Yeah. I mean, maybe now that's the irony, is that it tends to be that you want your comfort even if you are also trying to have your utopian farm, and then it's like, so which one are you going to choose?
Yeah.
But when you have to have endless toil and you also happen to be an NB utopian farmer, what does that do? Kind of, we can cross that bridge.
Yeah.
When we have characters. But I think that'd be kind of funny.
Yeah. Lots of water too is a big distinction. Water is always kind of, popular topic in this type of media. Waterworld, Mad Max, anything like that.
Wait, which one's Waterworld?
Waterworld is the one with Kevin Costner where the world is covered in water, but it's all like, it's a giant ocean. And so like soil is the currency, because there's no like land left really.
That would be so scary.
Yeah,
I don't like imagining that.
Everyone lives on boats. I mean,
that's kind of cool.
Famously derided. But I remember watching it because it's like it was like a huge boondoggle. It was like incredibly expensive and it wasn't very popular. I remember though watching it when I was a kid, with no preconceptions,
Right.
and loving it, and thinking it was like so much fun.
It's a cool concept.
Yeah, and there's like
Definitely.
a girl with gills, and
That's pretty sick.
it's cool,
Yeah.
and it's like it's very Salt Life, and it's very
That's
kind of
cool.
it's like Mad Max on the water, basically. I mean, that was definitely
Oh, I
how
should see
someone
that.
conceived of that movie. They
Okay.
were like, it's Mad Max, but it's on the water. Because there's like bandits on jet skis and stuff, and everyone lives on these crazy ramshackle boats, and you have to convert your urine into drinking water using like these like solar powered machines. So that's
Very,
I think
very cool.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
in Coast World, one of the main Coast World life, very little water. There's another distinction.
Well, that's also that's the whole thing, is that they have so much water that they can't drink, and that's why we have the salt garbage men, is because they have to turn that into
exactly. So the
drinkable water.
primary
It's the irony is that the ocean is right there, but you can't consume
exactly.
it directly.
Honestly, doing this like on the Jersey Gulf too, that would be a good location as well. Primary labor in Salt World is water desalination.
Yeah.
So that's how these people occupy their time. And then the waste of that is salt, which they have way too much of, and it's a blight, really. They hate, like, salt
hate
is just
salt.
like the bane of their existence. It's like
Right.
this ultimate, like, they're just, it's like being in a desert and how sand becomes this,
You
like,
just can't-
ultimate symbol of just, like, how you're, like, everything's shifting and everything is just, like, constantly changing. And you can never
get
find,
lost
there's no identifiable, no identifiable landmarks or anything, and
Yeah.
it's just getting in everything and fucking everything up and making your life miserable. So salt is the sand of this world, right?
Okay.
It's like being stuck in a desert, and they're
Right.
just like, it's all around them. It's piled up in mountains.
I was just saying, maybe there's a place that is a salt desert, that is like a landscape like that.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a thing where they've like, as they also have a very like kind of unsustainable, like, so I as I'm imagining Coast World, it's like basically it's a small community hanging on by a thread,
Yeah.
just kind of dangling over the pit of
Yeah.
total oblivion, and
Okay.
it's a very unsustainable society that they've created, because maybe as they do this kind of like massive water desalination, what it does is they have to dispose of the salt, and then the massive amounts of salt that they're kind of like disposing in the landscape in turn make the landscape unusable. So they're kind of almost
it's like a
quasi-nomadic,
self-destructive,
and they're
and
moving
then- yeah.
down the coast as they kind of destroy their environment.
That makes
around
sense.
them.
And I think that's also good, because otherwise the statement is that Lake World is like the only. I think it's both. I think it's good if they're both self-destructing.
Oh yeah,
you know?
yeah, no.
Yeah.
Neither of these places
Neither
are
of
going to
them
be
are-
utopias.
Right.
Neither of them are going to be idyllic
No.
or
No.
yeah. Desalination destroys the landscape. So that's also part of
Yeah.
the struggle, is that already they're constantly aware that they're on the brink of destruction, because they're living in, again, like a post-collapse society. And there should be kind of, I think, the ruins of our world all around them. And we were talking about kind of like cargo cults based around non-functioning technology,
building
things like
weird little
that.
sets and stuff,
And there should
yeah.
just be the waste of our society is everywhere, right? Because it's like our waste is
Trash.
going to outlive us. So there's
Trash, beach, plastic. There's so much
there's
plastic.
there's
Yeah.
landfills,
Yeah.
things like that. There could be like plastic. That could be one of the roles in the society
Oh, yeah.
too, is kind of like plastic smiths, that like melt
Who-
down
and
all this
make new
plastic, and they're
objects.
poisoning themselves because
Right.
they're always melting
Oh,
plastic,
yeah.
and it's
The
like
fumes.
it's just this unhealthy kind of like
But they're like, we don't know what else to do, because this is
Yeah.
what we have to do it with. Yeah.
yeah, it's all they have.
Yeah.
Desalination destroys the environment,
But I'm thinking
making
also.
them quasi-nomadic.
Yes. I'm thinking also about, if you're going to make stuff out of what you have, crazy concept is to go to Spiral Jetty and also film at Spiral
Ah.
Jetty, which is made of salt.
Is it? I
And
thought it was rocks.
It's mostly salt,
Cool.
because the Great Salt Lake has a lot of salt.
Fair.
And it's like big salt crystals. But maybe
you-
they also have a culture in their religion of making stuff like that. Like
Mm.
really, really huge things out of salt, because they have so much salt.
yeah.
And that's, I think, a fun reference about.
sculptural element too.
time.
Huge salt-based earthworks.
Yes. It's just the visual of like the time spiral. Are you in the future? Are you in the past?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
I want to see that, the movie. I still haven't watched it. The Spiral Jetty documentary.
Yeah,
thing.
the one from the 70s.
Yeah.
Definitely seen it. I don't know where though.
I gotta find it.
Yeah.
I gotta find
We
it.
might have actually like rented it on 16 or something. I don't
Wow.
know.
Wow.
Might have it at
That's
the free library. Howdy.
I think that I feel like we kind of already did this.
Yeah, we're
this one.
outlining where we've been already.
Yeah.
So let's draw a line here where we have like this is kind of world building stuff. So this
Yeah.
is like the world side, and then this is the story side.
We need a plot.
So we have to start coming up with the story.
I was
we do have our
thinking-
first scene, which is what we
encounter.
had last time, which
Yes.
is the encounter of
Over
the two
the bridge,
worlds.
and we have our visual of the meeting. I'm just gonna draw this.
Yeah.
Oh wow, the Sharpie is terrible.
How have we not gotten a new one? Jesus Christ.
I have to go find mine.
Encounter between two worlds.
Over the bridge.
Caravan arrives at the border of Salt World. Salt World. Hi, Mom. No, I'm just laughing at myself. What's up, dummy? Delightful. Man, it's a hot fucking day today. Oh my god. It's a hot. Oh my. Wait. Okay. Oh, how could I forget about this? Oh my god. So, my friend Evan, one of my best friends, Evan, who lives in Portland, we made a short, like a goofy little short, a long time ago, and it was about these these two brothers. And I think one of them used to be a child actor. It was just like a goofy little like comedy thing we made, like when we were maybe like 21 or 22. And I remember that one of the brothers was like a sci-fi author, and he was writing a dystopian sci-fi novel that we actually started writing.
Oh shit.
And it was about a post. It was a dystopia, like post-collapse, like desert Earth.
Okay.
And it was called Dust to Dust. And the first line, which was featured in the short, you see like over his shoulders he's writing, and it was a hot day on Earth. But then again, weren't they all?
Oh my god.
And it was meant to be like really shitty, pulpy sci-fi.
That's cool.
But yeah, Dust to Dust was cool. And I remember the idea that I had was that it was like the Earth was kind of like mostly desertified, and so the equator was like an impassable boundary where it was just like it was so hot, and it was kind of maybe like a giant fire sandstorm. It was like 200 degrees. So in that society, and there was still technology though. There were like flying vehicles and shit. So it was very kind of sci-fi. If you want to use this, and there was I remember they had these kind of like they had these massive like land ships that were like the only vehicles that were capable of crossing the equator, because they were like covered in like heat shielding and stuff, but it was still this like brutal trip that they would have to take. And it was about this guy who was like a land surveyor, and you always had to wear like these protective heat suits when you went out in the environment. And I remember it started with him like, and he's flying his little like flying vehicle, and then he like sees some wreckage, and he goes down there and he finds a girl, and she's alive, but she's not wearing a heat suit. So it's like, how did she survive? Da-da-da.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Dust to Dust. Yeah, Dune. Okay.
I've been thinking about Dune.
You've been reading Dune, right?
No,
you
I have
haven't.
never read it.
Kelsa and Gabe have been reading Dune. I think a lot of people have been reading Dune because the new movie's coming out.
Right.
And I'm definitely going to watch it because I was obsessed with Dune as a young man, like many people are.
You have to talk to Louis about this.
Okay.
Because
Dune's awesome.
Very much deeply entrenched.
But I'm also a huge fan of the David Lynch film. So because it's it looks like in comparison to this one, it's like much more colorful, much weirder. I don't know. I like the.
Well, I want to see the Jodorowsky, the documentary
and
about
the documentary. Yeah, I mean that would have been incredible.
Right.
Yeah, with like Sid Mead designs too, like all this like crazy conceptual art and shit. But yeah, the David Lynch one is fun.
Okay.
But I think people are not fans of it because it makes zero sense if you haven't read the book, which is very bad for a film.
But it's like very true to the book.
Yeah, he just like crams in a million details. Yeah.
Funny.
So I mean, I think they solved that with the new one, in that it's going to cover like the first like third of the book or something.
Oh shit! And then it'll be a trilogy.
A lot happens. And then, a lot happens in that book.
Yeah. But speaking of David Lynch, it brings me back to Twin Peaks and our plot, which is who gets killed. Is it the coast people, or is it a lake person who washes up dead? Because I think that's going to be the whole hinge of the whole thing. Is like, what does it mean, and who?
Yeah. I think so. So as we talked about it in the past, so the caravan is going to be kind of religiously motivated. Like they have kind of a conquistador mentality of kind of like, it is, God has kind of like, we're doing this because God has kind of like given us this mission to like explore like the barren wastelands, and that's the only reason they've actually managed to make it so far, because they have this real religious fervor. So I think it might make sense to have one of them die, because then their response to that would also be fueled by that religious fervor. But
and then they would be able to blame the Coast World people in a distinct way. Yeah,
maybe, or be like, oh, okay, well we thought maybe you were like redeemable, but you're actually like savages, and we're gonna you're like you've lost your humanity out here, and we are the last bastion of actual civilization, and you are just kind of like, you're not even human anymore.
I'm just going to put this.
Cool.
I'm sure that something else happens in here.
A lot has to happen before someone dies. Yeah.
No, I think that it
could be
is
quick.
Pretty soon. Because that's the whole, isn't that what it's about? Like that's when it gets revealed what they actually think about each other. Unless you want to do like a montage of like, oh, they've been living together, whatever, figuring each other out for
or it could be a thing of like, okay, so we have the encounter now. Let's have our second scene.
This is not number 2.
Not necessarily second scene, but our second kind of
moment.
Like beat. Our second will be kind of the coast people. Mm-hmm. This society kind of like reckoning with the fact that there are other people alive, and there should be, I think, maybe some sort of like council.
There's going to be a meeting.
The people, and in this way, maybe we could have a kind of like show a positive side of their society, is that maybe because everyone is so dependent on each other for survival, that they have maybe a slightly more egalitarian society where decisions are made very communally. So, but also because there's not that many people. Maybe there's like 100 people in the coast world, and so everyone gets together in a big tribunal, to say like, what the fuck do we do about these people? And at this point, the caravan is kind of waiting at the gate. So they've had this first encounter that's been... The first encounter should be very kind of like unvarnished. And it's just like shock and surprise on the part of both groups, right?
And then I think they should like make them... They won't let them in. I think there's like that gatedness.
After that first encounter, which is like unfiltered, then which is just a meeting between individuals, then you have... kind of then
the structure steps in.
Yeah, exactly. It's the meeting between societies that kind of takes over, and then the coastal society is like, okay, hold on, wait, we have to have a discussion. We have to talk about the implications of this. So we have maybe a kind of, this is where we're introduced to the characters in this society, maybe. And I think we could maybe. It doesn't. There could be stuff in between here too, of kind of like showing the daily life. Maybe the scene before the council is seeing kind of the information of the outsider's arrival as it spreads through the coast society, and that's how we become acquainted with the coastal society.
Okay.
So we have
and the
kind
characters
of like,
and who. So
we have a montage where we see like the kelp farmers and the desalination plants, and we see kind of the shamans or the mystics or whatever, right? Who are like, suddenly they all have to like get together and confer about the implications of this, right?
And I think that this is a good moment to be like, what is everybody's status? And like, who is the underdog in this situation of like, do they let the salt garbage men talk? Or who has something to say? I feel like there could be a moment of like the salt processors have something important to say about what they think should happen when everybody tries to ignore them, and then maybe at the end they are vindicated.
So this is I think where we kind of make the salt disposers, the salt garbage men, the central characters. Is that they're the first ones to realize, because everyone else is like, again, salt is kind of like the biggest taboo in this society. It's like,
they're sick
it's
of
the
it.
lowest thing possible. I mean, if you wanted to get like really, really cheesy, you could even have like, if you wanted to get like super like sci-fi channel, you could have like their language and maybe their like insults are based around salt, things like that. If you want to get like super corny, but that's the general idea, is that it's kind of the most reviled thing in this society.
Right.
So it takes the people that actually have to deal with it to realize, because it's so inconceivable to everyone else, to realize that the salt is actually the most precious thing to
and that's what their
the
power
lake people.
lies
Yeah,
in that.
yeah,
and that's
yeah.
what the lake people, maybe it's like, because we thought originally that the lake people were going to come in and be like, we need your salt, but maybe
Yeah.
they're just kind of like, we're religious, proselytizing, whatever, like, we want to help you.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're like, leave us alone, but you can pay us for our salt.
Uh-huh.
So that's like their counter, is that like, we're not going to go with you, we're not going to change our way of life, because we're going to like, even though it's falling apart around them,
Yeah.
they're going to be like staunch about it. And then maybe it's the salt garbage men who are like, but we can offer you this.
Yeah.
And if basically to leave us alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think though, so this is what, can I make one note
Yes.
about the world? So
Okay.
another big factor that we talked about last time is kind of the reintroduction of the concept of commerce and exchange
Oh, to right.
to the coastal
right.
society. So this is basically where this already very fragile society, I think, is going to start kind of like crumbling, because suddenly this kind of way that they haven't had to think about things really for a very long time, because they've thought purely about survival, and all labor is completely tied to survival, and there's no excess. And suddenly the one thing that they do have in excess, which they've never cared about, has value.
Right.
So that just flips everything upside down.
But it's a double-edged sword too, because if it's like the lake people will only leave us alone if we make this trade. It's like you're saving your way of life immediately, but then by reintroducing commerce, it destroys you. So it's like they take the short term out, and in doing so, it like actually says something.
Yeah, and
about
this is,
the
I
long
think,
term.
this is an interesting angle, that this could be kind of where a lot of the conflict comes from. Is suddenly we do have a hierarchy in the coastal world,
Definitely.
and the reintroduction of the idea of commerce and the sudden kind of supremacy of salt as currency, as the sole currency in this new kind of like in this new system of exchange that they have now. Suddenly they have someone to trade with. Suddenly there's someone who wants something that they have that they've never valued. Causes the power structure to flip upside down. So suddenly the people at the lowest rung of society, who are the people that deal with the salt, suddenly have all the power.
And I'm sure the people in power don't like that very much.
Exactly. So suddenly you have like the untouchables are kind of holding the reins of like what's going to happen. And I think that again, that should be, I think we have to contrast the viewpoints too, between like the people, between kind of the upper class. I mean, it's barely class again, because they're all kind of like
just trying to.
No one has any excess, right? So there's
What do you
very
mean
few kind of like
contrast?
class signifiers. I think really the only stratification in this society is your job. Like what purpose you serve in the society defines your position in the society.
And maybe it maps onto the food. So maybe the fishermen are the highest class because that's the best protein.
Yeah,
It's the hardest. It's the like hardest skill to have to do it well.
Let's do the class structure, or whatever. I don't know. It sounds weird calling it class structure, but why not?
But it would be.
It works. So at the top, we have food providers. Get that, this is some good shit. And salt disposers at the bottom. And then top, bottom, and then I mean this is loose. This is loose, and also the kind of the spiritual leaders are in there somewhere as well. I mean,
Well, I wonder if the spiritual leaders are kind of hacks. If like nobody likes them, all the like the tech what are we calling it? Like the
cargo cult.
Yeah, the cargo cult people. Maybe they're like, we don't need you, but they're kind of like,
Fair.
well, you need religion.
Fair.
know?
It could be kind of like the almost like a dumping ground for the people that can't really serve any purpose, any other purpose. They get to be they get to be the mystics or whatever.
Mystics, yeah.
You know,
the fortune tellers. Okay.
But I don't know.
But okay, let's do. Okay, so what happens? Let's do more plot.
Yeah.
What happens after the council?
Well, I think what has to happen is that basically as the caravan is kind of kept at the gates and as the society is kind of reckoning with this sudden realization that there is something else out there besides them, you have to have the different subsets of the coastal society kind of interacting with the caravan in their own way. So I think even though it's generally like, oh, let's keep these people out, they're also very wary of entering. They're like exhausted too. They've been traveling for like, you know, hundreds of miles across this kind of like post-apocalyptic wasteland.
They need the salt people, but they're also probably like they're savages in quotes, you know. We are afraid of them.
If they have the real conquistador mindset.
I think they should.
And they should and they then should have something that's like maybe they have, you know, they have like a semi truck full of water that's being like pulled by oxen or something, you know. Okay. So they just have like tons of water. Like clearly there has to be an imbalance and like they each have something that the other wants, okay?
Yeah.
So the lake caravan has lots of water.
That's an amazing image. Like a shipping container pulled by oxen.
Yeah.
I like that. And I think I'm thinking about the people who are useful and the people who are useless to these people.
But then no one can be fully useless, again, if it's like a fully subsistent society. Too.
Well, that's why you have your
Mystics.
mystics. Yeah. But and also way. So old people become the mystics, and and then what about children? Like
they work.
Right. So, but in what ways? I think
it's just like total return to like, you know, child labor.
Victorian style. Okay.
I mean, basically all of human history up until like, you know, 100 years ago.
But I think that also
years ago.
True.
Still
but
most
children
of the world,
have
actually.
A distinct perspective on that.
Yeah.
As you just enter it, you know, distinct in that you don't know what you're doing, but also you see things maybe better than adults. And I think that there could be an interesting subplot there with like how the kids. What they think should happen with the water and with the salt.
Okay, yeah.
Just an idea,
No. I agree with that. So basically I think it should be...
But nobody listens to them, so...
Okay, so I think where we're getting the conflict is that whatever conflict happens with the caravan and whatever violence occurs, I think it should be because it should come from... It should be done by the people in the coastal society who predict that their position within the society is going to change for the worse if the power structure of the society is inverted.
Yes. So that would be the fishermen.
Yeah, or someone, some sort of, you know, head honcho of some sort, you know.
So they're the ones killing somebody from the lake world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think let's write that down. Here. Use the good one.
Thank you.
I'm going to go back for a second. Just look at the computer.
Sweet. So lake world, missionary, killed by fishermen is our sort of next biggest occurrence. What's going on over there? Aw, sorry, Jen. I'm so glad that she watches every week, though. That's really sweet. I know. Okay. So there's the moment when, you know, this figure washes up on the beach, and I think that there's an interesting moment of who finds him and what do they do about it immediately, because I think that's actually like an important decision time too, always in like a murder mystery, because you could say I'm going to hush this, or I can make it a big deal and blow everything up. So, but if it's is it like the lake people can't find their own dead because they're not really allowed into the camp fully? So they like, maybe the Salt Lake people try to keep it a secret for a second because they are the first to know?
So the image that I'm imagining is that suddenly it's kind of like there's all this chaos happening, right?
Yeah.
And you have members of the coastal society who are like sneaking off to talk to the people from the caravan who are very kind of like hopeful or very excited. And there's all this kind of like, almost like it's like there's this charge of positive energy where everything are like, oh, things could be better. There's like, there's hope.
True.
There's hope
True.
in this world where, all hope has seemed to have evacuated it long ago. Now suddenly there's hope because there's new possibility.
New people that
and
we didn't know were alive.
The sun rises, and there's one of the members of the caravan is like on the other side of the gate and like hanging from the gate, like left as kind of a warning, like a mutilated body or something. And and no one knows who did it, right?
Right.
And so there's chaos in the chaos in the lake world, or in the caravan, because they're like there's a split there, obviously, where half of them are like, oh, we really want to meet these people, they're just like us.
Right.
And then there's the more conquistador mindset where they're like, no, they're like, basically animals, like they're not like us, we're civilized.
Right.
And then they're vindicated.
Maybe.
Not really, but they're like, look what they do. I told you they would do this.
Right.
We have to just like kill these people and take what they have.
Is
There's
there
the
a
diplomats
version,
versus
is there
the
a
conquerors.
version where there's a possibility that the lake people kills one of their own, though? Maybe if there is if there's that division, then there's definitely the other lake people being like, well, you obviously had it out for us. So
okay.
I think that's a layer.
There we go.
Okay, but so we have hope into the question, sort of what does this
mean? And I think we should also put that in the caravan. Caravan is split as well between diplomats and conquerors.
I thought this guy had to have a watery death. It's all about water. He's gonna drown. Can he drown?
Good idea. Yeah.
Or maybe he's like harpooned and drowned.
Yeah.
Or something.
Well, that would give it away, wouldn't it?
True.
But I actually do much more like the idea of it being one of the members of the caravan who kills one of their own to kind of sabotage peace negotiations, because they're like,
I think that's what it should be.
Yeah, it should be maybe like the most bloodthirsty, the like Cortez of the caravan, who's like, no, like.
And of course, he would use a harpoon. He would use a weapon of the
or drown them,
people,
or drown them,
right? So that they would suspect, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So killed not by.
So who is our main character? I think it should be a young person.
How young?
Maybe because you were talking about having the different perspective. It could be like, the daughter of like a salt disposer who's like, she's just old enough now to start working. She's like 11, and they're putting her to work in the salt the salt trash heaps. Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of want it to be an older person. I want it to be like an elderly main character.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's always what it is.
Yeah, you're right.
Is the apprentice. I mean, we can have that character totally in it.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be cool if the protagonist was right. There you go. Intergenerational.
Yeah.
So. And
then I think the kind of like I think everything should be pointing to it being one of the coastal people who committed the murder.
Right.
And then somehow they're like, he was drowned with fresh water.
Bum bum bum. Yeah. Maybe that's
And that's the reveal.
That's the skill that they have, is you can
Well, because no one in the coastal society would ever waste water.
There you go.
So that's the tip off, and then they have to. I don't know how they would find that out, but
we can figure that
autopsy. I don't know.
Ugh, salt autopsy. It's an awful image.
Yeah, or maybe there's like maybe there's like noticeable differences between someone who's been drowned in fresh and salt water.
I'm sure we could look
the
that up.
coastal society are very familiar with what the effects on a body that's drowned in salt water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But Fresh water.
Or maybe it's like that our main characters like are the first to find the body, and like the water is like, you know, he's been drowned, he's soaking wet and like dripping, water's dripping off him, but he's like been strung up over like, you know, the archway at like the central gate or something. This like very, very threatening image, right? The caravan, one of the caravanners, one of the conquistadors has been like hanged, but he's still like dripping with water, and he's been drowned.
Yeah.
But they're there early enough to like, you know, I don't know, maybe like someone like
they can
dips their hand into the pool of water and is like, it's fresh water.
Yeah. And then they can like have something they can keep a secret. That they think that they need to. Yeah. Or they're afraid to share.
Or they collect like a vial of the water, and they're like, this will be important. Like, this is the water. Yeah.
They were.
But then maybe it's one of those things where it's also like, it's like you think it's like this kind of perfect gotcha and it'll solve the crime, and it doesn't ultimately matter in the end, and you know, no one believes them, and they're like, well, that could have just been like water from anywhere, you know.
Yeah, I guess that's the question, is like, how neatly do you want to tie it up? Like, is it that maybe this is the next step, is like, or we could work backwards from the end? Should we do that? Like, how does this end?
Let's figure out
What's
the
the
ending.
point?
Let's figure out the ending. I think I don't know, there's definitely the possible ending of just like warfare.
Yeah.
And it just like, it ends with kind of like the aftermath of like just
There's more
massive bloodshed, and you know, the caravan is like, they don't have enough people, and maybe all their water has been like destroyed, or they like destroyed it themselves as like self-sabotage because the coastal people were gonna get it, you know.
Yeah. And then the coastal people
and they don't have enough
them?
people to like make it back to the lake world, and then the coastal society has also kind of like internally torn itself apart to such a degree that they don't have the people power necessary to kind of like keep their very fragile balance, their fine balance of an existence going. So then everyone's just kind of like, it's that sobering moment where everyone realizes like, we've totally doomed ourselves.
Right, like we're going to die. Yeah. I kind of like it as a soft.
Possible. It doesn't have to be that fatal. It could be a hopeful ending too, you know?
I mean, I like it. I think it'd be cool if it was really ambiguous, like a softer sort of like, maybe they in the end just sort of walk away from each other.
Yeah.
And it's like maybe implied that like they will not make it, but like maybe the caravan leaves again, but the tank is empty, or they like just like wander away without any water, and they're just like, we're gonna find.
Yeah, there's
figure
no
it out.
resolution.
Yeah.
There's no resolution. And they're just like, we can't deal with these people. Like, we're out of here. But they're like, doom is kind of certain. And then I like that idea that the coast world is like bureaucratically imploding. Yeah, so like both of these two societies, and clearly I think there should be some implication that like Lake World is not as utopian as they make it out to seem. Like there's internal fractures there that are, and it might just be that they're replicating all the problems that we have now. There's overconsumption, there's hyper-materialism,
and that emerges over the course of them, like trying to describe how great it is.
Yeah, there's
all
obsession
the coastal
with
people are like
accumulation too, and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah.
And coast worlds will, I don't know. Or maybe I'm thinking about mass suicide. Maybe
Jesus.
they all.
Okay.
I feel like for some reason that feels inevitable for me in the coast world thing. Or like maybe there's like a sect of them, or maybe the mystics are like,
they become
this is
a
what we
death
gotta
cult.
do. Yeah. Maybe they're like, we can't keep destroying the earth. I feel like I want them to be hippies. I don't know why. But I feel like there's a moment where they have to be like, we can't keep doing this with the salt. We can't just like keep leaving piles of salt behind us. So they're like, let's just all die. Like, and Civ. Like, population control, we're done. You know? What if they're just like, that's actually the kindest thing we can do?
Would anyone actually do that though? Would anyone
in
ever...
this world, I feel like, I don't know.
But they're still human. I mean.
Yeah, but people have done it before.
People have willingly ended their own civilization.
I don't know their own civilization,
like
but yeah. I'm like, maybe that's what happens. Because, and maybe it's only like half of them or something. Maybe there's another division, and some of them are like, that's psycho, but I feel like, and I think it's a cool illustration of like, some of them are so willing to stick to their ideals that they will do that and be like, this is awful, people have died because of this conflict already, like let's end it fully. And then other people who are like, no, our human life is valuable despite everything, or like because of that kind of conflict and like how complicated we are. So let's keep trying.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting.
No, I think that's a good dichotomy too. The people that are like, there is inherent value to just existing, no matter what that state of existence is, and then the people that are like, no, there's not enough reward to make this life worth living,
and that it's just like wrong, you know.
And that could be fed by the realization that there are people out there that are living somewhat like a more stable existence, and they're like, holy shit, we'll never have that. And it's kind of like this mass mass cynicism comes out of that.
Led by mystics, maybe. Okay. And then there's the ambiguity of the people who stick it out or try to. Okay. And then...
Yeah, I'm going to get some zooms.
Okay. Yeah, we have to look at what we have. Such as my shipping container full of water. Do the lake people leave with salt? Do they end up walking away with... Do they like get what they wanted? Do they get what they wanted to trade? Do they like have... Maybe it's like actually you can't have one without the other, so they are out of fresh water, but they leave with so much salt.
Yeah, I think they should take it like the conquerors win out and they take it by force.
Yeah. But it's also... And that's the irony, too, is that it's like if this is the currency now and they have to fight the coastal people for the salt, it's like the whole thing was that they were ready to give it to them. That they just had it, but it didn't mean anything, right? And then that it took all of this bloodshed to actually for them to get it. But it's kind of pointless.
Well, because suddenly I think it was probably a thing of like, it was once the people who kind of had... control of the salt, realized that it had value, then suddenly the dynamic shifted. And that's kind of, and then suddenly you have, it's like maybe it's clear in the beginning that they're just like, oh yeah, we have way too much of this stuff, we're happy to give it to you. And then suddenly they kind of, the interaction with the caravan shifts and they're like, no, actually we want something in return because we realize now that this has value. And then that's where that leads to the false flag murder done by the caravan, the conquerors in the caravan, to kind of spur their colleagues into violent action, and then that leads them to violent action. Because even though our main character is kind of, it's a murder mystery where, solving the mystery doesn't actually fix anything. Yeah, so they've solved it.
So there is a moment when they're like,
anyone.
Okay, yeah. So what is that moment when they figure out who killed the? Because if they figure out that one of the caravan killed one of their own, how do the
and I think it should be a big build-up. I think the murder should happen like very late, and then we kind of quickly.
Okay.
You have a big build-up to that because then I think it should be kind of like almost very obvious what's happened to our protagonists. Like it's very clear that like this is not perpetrated by anyone in their society. But we see that like despite that, knowing the truth doesn't really matter, and things kind of play out anyway because people on both sides are like kind of want this conflict to happen,
Whoa. Yes.
So the truth doesn't matter.
Yeah. That they're just looking for ways to.
They both want to believe
destroy
that the
themselves.
other side would do that.
Right.
Right.
So So what is that?
Or maybe it's that all the coastal people, that they quickly realize the truth of that, and then the people in the caravan are like, well, we don't fucking care. We were just looking for an excuse. And this is like, you know, the most radical segment of the caravan. There's a small conspiracy within that. Mm-hmm. And they do this false flag murder to then just get everyone else in the caravan on their side, who are maybe like a bit more diplomatically minded. And then suddenly they're kind of like, again, the religious fervor of their mission kind of takes over, and they're like, oh, okay, we knew it. We've been theorizing about what, the remnants of society that aren't kind of part of our society would be like, and now all our ideas have been confirmed. They are just like murderous barbarians, so now we feel no qualms about just killing them.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be people in the caravan who don't believe that also, maybe.
Yeah. And maybe it ends with kind of a split where like some people from the coast go with the doomed caravan, some people from the caravan stay with the doomed coastal society.
Right.
After, so I think maybe it should be kind of like the scene, like a good chunk of it should just be kind of like the social interactions between these people, and like figuring out kind of like where people in each society stand on the issue of whether they should, like basically whether they should trade between the two societies.
Right.
And then as those discussions kind of get more complex and start heating up and getting a little more charged and the tensions growing, then suddenly you have the explosion of violence, which is the murder, which is then followed by more violence, which is kind of like the attempt to just like, no more diplomacy. We're going to take what we want by force. And then the confirmation for the coastal people that these people are not like, they are who we thought they were from the beginning, which is like they just want to come and take what we have and kill us and throw our society out of balance.
Right. So confirmation.
Yeah. And it could also be that they recognize like part of their kind of like cargo cult that's built around, the remnants of the old world is also kind of like a vague understanding of the habits and of the systems in the old world that led to its eventual collapse.
You mean
the coastal people. So they like, have a view from the beginning that like the caravan represents this older fallen world, and even though our existence is like they should just be obsessed with like the balance, and it's like we are hanging on by a thread. Any disruption of this is like disastrous, so we cannot have any heretical thinking, we cannot have any new ways of thinking, and we definitely cannot have any infection of our society by the older ways of viewing the world. Yeah.
So they've thought that the whole time, and then it's just confirmation of their assumptions. But I think
the coastal religious system is anti-old.
Anti-old.
Is
obsessed with obsessed with balance.
Anti-old. Obsessed with balance.
But I think the irony there too is that as things keep getting more heated, it's like there are more and more moments where they're presented with out of balance. Where like this is a whole situation of being in conflict and out of balance. So it's like every time something else happens, it's like, look, you can still deal with this. It's like it's also disproving their cult the whole time. It's both proving and disproving it, because people get killed, but also like you just have to like deal with them. It's not like maybe initially it seems like they're gonna, because it seems like they're gonna help each other initially. It's like it shows them that your cult is.
Well, it's also kind of like a really kind of weirdly technocratic view of things, where it doesn't really take into account kind of.
It's like systems thinking, not actually about maybe how the people are going to work with each other.
It's like viewing their society as it has to be a perfect system in balance, where everyone is kind of just like working constantly, doing this, like doing their little part, being their little cog, being their little puzzle piece that helps everything kind of work.
And that's why they need the religion, because otherwise
to keep that belief going.
Despair would
in the
set
obsession
in much earlier.
Like everyone has their perfect role. Everyone you are, born into your work, you do it
Right.
till you die, and what you do is the only thing keeping us like barely alive, which is probably true.
Right.
Ultimately, because again,
Right.
their existence is so kind of like bereft of anything. I mean, it's just like
Yeah.
they can barely eke out any sort of existence.
But once you give it a religious trapping, it
Yeah.
becomes like something you can believe in.
Yeah,
rather than having to be like,
It
"Actually,
makes
this."
it easier.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what that doesn't account for is that people have divergent desires, and
Right.
people have divergent, beliefs and wishes. And as soon as
Right.
you introduce some sort of like
That little
the possibility,
thought that'll get you. Yeah.
once you introduce possibility into the equation, then suddenly people kind of start like dreaming again about like what could exist outside of their
Right.
immediate surroundings.
And
And that's
that's-
what leads to kind of the schism.
Yeah.
So it's all just schism. This is a story about schism. I'm gonna
But
write-
it's also that's very poignant because it's like they start to have imagination basically and hope, but it's unfortunate that it's about this lake world, which is like maybe also not so great.
Yeah.
And that's the illusion of the lake world too, is that they're trying to present it as
Yeah.
the ultimate hope.
yeah.
But it's So okay, I'm still interested in this moment.
Yes. Yeah.
So, who I guess we have our protagonists eventually bring their evidence to the council. Like, what
Yeah.
is that? What that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
That could be it. Yeah.
Why? Like, what would make them suddenly come forward? I don't really know.
Because they know that if if the murder is blamed on the coastal society, it'll give the caravan the excuse to attack them, to take
Right.
things by force.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like getting closer, and they feel that.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So there's maybe they
And
get
maybe-
intel of some kind of plan that the caravan has to do
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
they're like, no, we have to reveal this before they actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it could also be that then when we're the inversion of the power structure that we were talking about, that the truth of the situation is that, so now maybe we've seen the power structure has been flipping, and now kind of the people that control the salt are starting to have more sway,
Right.
and they are really desperate to basically like turn this into a trade relationship. So they're desperate to just kind of like turn over one of the coastal, blame it on an individual, say, oh, this person was crazy, just
Like,
and get
sorry,
maybe
basically,
it
yeah.
could be like one of the older leaders that it's a power play. They're trying to get rid of someone, so they're
That's smart,
trying to
yeah.
pin it on someone to maintain relations with the caravan,
So they can get rid of him, and then
so they can get rid of a subversive element that's trying
Yeah.
to undermine the potential kind of trade relationship. And then there could be other people in the coastal society that are like, no, we want to blame, like we have not liked these people from the beginning. We
Right.
want to take violent action against them and take their
Right.
water. So
So
let's
we have to-
do pin it on the carrot. Let's do like reveal the truth, and they're kind of split over like
and I
what they
think
want
that's
to believe.
especially interesting if the person with the truth is the person going to inherit the Salt Empire.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
now if you're suddenly not inheriting something shitty and you have the option of staying quiet and being like, no, actually, I'll take it, and then you have to make the moral quandary, of like, is it better to tell the truth?
Yeah,
I
split
mean, that's kind
over
of
belief in
simplistic,
who
but
committed murder. How do you spell committed?
2 T's? I don't know.
Murder. So we have salt traders now. They haven't traded anything, but that's kind of they're
They're trying to become.
they're positioning themselves
Yeah.
to be that.
Yeah.
Yeah, salt traders want to blame it on a lone subversive.
of their own
Yeah.
government,
It
quasi-government.
on lone coastal subversives to maintain relations.
Okay. And then faction of salt citizenry wants to drive the lake people away or something.
Faction of coastals want to blame it on the caravan as grounds to commit violence
Right.
against them.
To take their water.
Yeah.
Or force them out or whatever. Yeah. Both. Okay. So then the people with the truth, the people with the information, would share it
Well, that's the thing.
in order to.
Well, they share it, but then nothing happens because everyone's kind of already
Right.
chosen what they want to believe.
But they have to have a reason of sharing it, even
Because
if
they
it doesn't matter.
think because they think it will kind of restore order.
Because it's
Because it's
just
well,
like the
no,
truth.
you can't deny the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that's what's
And then the
what's
fact is
sad
that
about it is that you can and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. That you
Okay.
kind of just like, it's just what you choose to believe ultimately
Yeah.
in this situation. What serves your best interests is the truth for, the division within the society. And it doesn't matter which
Right.
one is the actual factual truth.
But that you can manufacture truth.
Yeah.
Yes. But
Whoa.
damn. I think that I have to leave actually.
I think we're getting somewhere
think
though.
that- but
this
this
is
is-
good.
it's
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
This is really good. It's not, it's much neater too, right? I think it's become much more organized
Yeah.
as we've gone through it. Here, I'll do a quick pan of the room.
Please do.
Over here we've got our first two. It is number one. This camera a little bit. Number one over here. Okay, so over here we have sheet number one. This is from our first session.
Brainstorming. What are movies?
Much more of a map, yeah. Oh wait, is this the first one or is
This is the first one. This is the first one.
Oh, okay.
Is what movies have we seen?
Yeah, so the first one is really
Inspiration
just
moments.
like totally disjointed, bit more unhinged.
But that's where we landed
got
on
books.
food
Yeah,
dystopia.
yeah.
So
We got all our stuff. The transformative power of food. I guess Tampopo was kind of the inspiration
Yeah,
ultimately.
yeah.
The jumping off
beginning.
point. What else is on this one? Oh yeah, then we get down to food dystopia here.
and
Low
we were
budget
really into
sci-fi, near
the
future
we've
collab.
lost the magical realism moment of this whole thing.
We have,
sort of.
yeah.
I am
Maybe
gonna
we should
think about
introduce
that.
that, yeah.
I'm gonna I want that back. That's what I like about
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
'Cause that
So
was the
then
big
we've got
theme.
kind of, and we do still have this weird kind of division point down the middle, which I don't know what that was really supposed to signify. Oh yeah, it was movies that Saski has seen, and then movies that Saski should see on the other side.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have week 2, which is over here.
Where we started with food
More
dystopia.
of a brainstorm, yeah. A little more organized, right? We've got our kind of central animating idea here, and then we've got all our little reference points branching off of it, right? So we've got like our little J.G. Ballard, changing diets, changing bodies, the horses of Assateague Island. All there is to eat is kelp. I like that. Salt garbage men, apprentice, kelp farmers, the emissaries, right? We got all that. Salt world split on the opinions. So we've been kind of consistent. Yeah, this is pretty good. We didn't talk about the apocalypse bunker with the still working technology. Oh, and I had another idea, which was that the part of the there could be just like part of the like mythological system of the coast society could have to do with some sort of like document about how kind of how wasteful we were with water in our present era, right? So
Yeah.
like, like a brochure of like a water park or something, and they're like,
Yeah.
can you believe, like this
They
could have
had
never
this.
actually existed. Like,
Right.
what is this? This
Yeah,
is like,
that's funny.
it's like a mythical idea for them. Like the idea of just like so much water that you use it for like recreation. And we talked about our actual problems in the present that can inform our dystopia, future of hyper-local production. We've got our syncretic faith system. That's still kind of in here. New religion based on cultural memory of of overconsumption.
That was for the
Yeah.
lake people, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and the caravan driven by religious fervor and desire for a diverse palate. So again, we got to read more about the history of salt too.
Yeah, oh,
'cause
I forgot about that, yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what we're always tying back into. It's kind of the return. Like salt has been a currency in
Right.
the past, and we're
It's
kind
hard
of.
for me to believe, though, that would drive them enough. A diverse palate would drive them in this dystopian society.
Well, it drove the conquest of the
But I guess-
Americas.
Right.
I mean, in part because you can make a lot of money off things that people
what
have
you
never
think
tasted
are,
before.
right, fancy,
Yeah.
unusual things. Yeah.
Yeah. Tomatoes.
For example.
Yeah. Or spices.
Right.
you
Right.
know? And then let's come to this week. Slow zoom. So you can just see this is what we've done the last couple weeks, and then here's this week. Much neater, honestly, and much more kind of like focused, and much more of an actual kind of beginnings of like a working document. And yeah, a little less kind of like schizo.
Well, now we have the beginning and the end, and the middle. So we need everything in between those parts.
So I guess we've got over here we have kind of our refined notes on the world of this place. We've got, our little diagram of the structure of the world, the voyage of the caravan from the lake world to the coast world. We have kind of, distinctions between the two societies, resources, wealth of resources, lack of resources. You have the class structure of our lake world, of our coast world, which then gets flipped, which gets inverted. We've got our schism, big important word in this. We've got,
false
just notes on the world. Oh yeah, we should write that down somewhere. I mean, that's just such a great phrase. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's on the other side.
The salt-based earthworks, I think that's a great image. I love the idea of that, of like tumuli, maybe be like burial mounds made out of salt.
Yeah, I guess they probably preserve their dead in salt. They probably mummify people, right? Yeah.
Everyone's mummified.
You're halfway there anyway in your life, so.
Yeah, exactly. And then over here we've got our story, which is a little more disjointed, but we're starting to get the moments kind of in the outlines. We have the outline. I'm starting to see this in my head.
I think that we do need to lock in the characters. At the peril of this becoming like a fantasy or sci-fi story where it's like the characters are really arbitrary. To illustrate the world building, I think that next time we got to figure out what's the personal conflict. Yeah. Who are these personalities?
What are their relations?
Right. Right. They can still be representative of things, but they got to be real too, I think.
Kind of our big climactic moment with this, you have this element of murder mystery, right? And then the mystery solved, and yet solving the mystery doesn't really do anything. Because it's not like it's, someone's going to get arrested and thrown in jail, and then it's like, case solved, there we go. On to the next one. Yeah.
I guess. Deserts.
Dramatic.
I think that's,
Yeah, I think it looks good. I think we're doing, what time is it?
1:45.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice. And you have to go to work now?
I do have to go.
Okay.
But thank you for
watching. From one job to the
watching.
next.
Do you want to get in front of the camera again?
Yeah, I'm coming. Don't worry. All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Bye. We had a good time.
Indeed. Yeah, and stay tuned for the last episode next week where we have to tie this up somehow.
Oh boy. Yeah.
We can do it, I believe.
Names. I think naming is going to be a
to
big part of it.
names.
We need to have names for these characters.
Place
we need to have names for the
names.
movie.
Yeah.
Place names. Oh,
Everything. The religion. Okay, we'll do it.
Cool. We'll figure it out.
You'll see
Join
it
us
happen.
next week. Episode 4.
The Writer's Room.
Bye-bye.